Buccaneers fans to another episode of Hear the Cannons presented by BucsGameday.com, Sports Illustrated's one and only website strictly dedicated to covering your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. My name is Caleb at CHS Knoll, writer and reporter here for BucsGameday. Along with me as always, and a good friend and our lead editor at BucsGameday.com, River Wells at River H Wells on X, formerly known as Twitter. We appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. Not a whole lot of news. We are in that dead period in between mandatory minicamp and training camp before the season gets fully underway. So it might be a bit of a shorter episode, but we appreciate you guys tuning in anyways because there was some breaking news today, and we're going to get into that here very, very shortly. But before we do, if you guys are watching anywhere else other than YouTube, please head over to YouTube. So if you're watching on X, if you're watching on Facebook, please head over to YouTube. That's where we get our content, our digital content, and everything else, even though it is over there. How we keep the bills paid over here at BucsGameday.com is through YouTube, and we truly, truly appreciate you guys showing us love, whether that's through likes, subscribing as well, turning on those notifications for whenever we are going live or whenever we have content going out, whether those are YouTube Reels, post-game content, post-practice content, press conferences.
We'll be there.
All the good stuff, right, River? We've got it all on YouTube. So truly,
you got it bang on.
That's where it's all at. That's where the good stuff is. And we'll just jump into it now while we're, on topic about football. It's right around the corner. We're now less than 2 weeks away until the Buccaneers get going on their training camp. And I'm super excited for it. I know you are as well.
Please.
There's going to be one important piece missing from Buccaneers training camp, and as well as at least a few games. Now, you can interpret that however you'd like, but a few is defined as 3 or more. I would put it somewhere around 3 or 4 games that Tristan Wirfs, the starting left tackle, all-pro from both tackle spots for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, will not be playing the first few games of the regular season due to re-injuring or re-aggravating, I guess, the same injury that he suffered last season that held him out for a couple of games as well. River, just your initial reactions on that. I think it's a real big shot to us to start early on.
Yeah, for sure. It's very unfortunate for the Bucs. The number is 4 because if he were to be put on the physically unable to perform list, he would have to sit out those first 4 games. And that's a tough stretch with some good defensive lines, right? I mean, Atlanta, 2 rookies there. So that might end up working out well for the Bucs, depending on how good Jalen Walker and James Pierce are in their first game in the NFL. But you got to play the Houston Texans and Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. in week 2. Then you got the New York Jets. And then you've got, of course, the Philadelphia Eagles in week 4. It's a really tough, stout defensive line. And it's important to mention, too, with Wirfs gone, Ben Bredeson's going to have a little bit more action on him. And I thought Bredeson played pretty decent last year and held down the fort, but it's undeniable that Wirfs would make a player like that better, right? It makes his job easier. So if Wirfs is out for the first 4 games this season, that would be pretty unfortunate, but I think if you can go 2-2 in that stretch, so if you can beat the Falcons and then you can beat the Jets, I think Houston and Philly are going to be tough with the backup tackle, which we'll talk about later. But if you can go 2-2 in that stretch, I think you're good. And assuming Wirfs comes back in week 5, I do think if Wirfs does not come back in week 5 and he's out for longer, that's far more disastrous. And then you're talking about hitting the panic button at that point.
It's such an interesting conversation to have, right? Because Tristan has kind of been the anchor, for years now, 5 years now. We're coming up on year 5. And it's sucks, right? Like we've seen him hold down the right side. We've seen him hold down the left side after making the move. And especially with the way that Luke was able to, jump in, take over that right tackle spot as quickly as he did. And as well as he's been able to do it. Yeah. And that just leaves a spot open. Right. And so it really hurts. You talked about those defensive lines that they're having to face. Obviously the Houston Texans defensive line is probably one of the best.
That's going to be tough, man. That's going to be tough.
On paper, right? Like if you look at it on paper, like they're really, really, really good on that side of the ball, in that front 7. And then, the Eagles always known for having a very tough physical front 7 as well. You can't dismiss, albeit the Falcons defensive line hasn't been what we're used to, the past couple of seasons, but they just added 2 rookie, pass rushers on that side of the
From the
ball.
first round, yeah, and I think it'll be interesting because the Bucs could have lucked out there. If this is their first NFL game, they're getting their feet wet. That might be beneficial, but there's also a chance that these two guys are both really good. Jalen Walker
Right,
and
but
Jalen
it would be
Hurts, so
beneficial, right, if Tristan Wirfs was your starting
it would
left
be
tackle.
yes, it would even be more beneficial. I will admit, but if this is going to happen, which it looks like it is, and you kind of got to wonder why this wasn't caught a little bit earlier to a degree. But if this is going to happen the way it does, maybe that's not the worst case scenario. And probably by the time the Bucs get to Atlanta the second time, Wirfs will be all right. So,
Yeah.
but you really got to win that game and set the tone, and it's going to be harder without Tristan.
Absolutely. And while you guys are on YouTube, feel free to drop how you're feeling about it, what your thoughts are, what your fix is for the problem. We're going to be discussing all of this across this whole entire show. So head over to YouTube, comment, shoot us any questions if you have any questions for us that we don't address throughout this. We really do appreciate it, guys, and we'll try to get to all of them as long as they are appropriate for us as we're on Sports Illustrated. So we have to be careful about what we do bring on, but we really do appreciate anything that you guys do throw at us along the way. But you had just mentioned, River, that we wish we knew about it a little bit earlier, right? And this goes back to the thing too, where there was no talk about major injuries or anything that was going to hold anybody out when it came to training or to start the season. And Todd Bowles was very vocal about that and
Yes,
did a lot. I think probably more than just once. And clearly there was something that was wrong, and that's with Tristan Wirfs. So that were you allowing him to try and work through that injury if you're Todd Bowles and the coaching staff and the training staff and whoever else it may be to see if he could be ready? Or was it something that you just chose to ignore and were like, hey, Tristan, just keep continuously work it out? What's the thought process in that? Because not having that clear knowledge on what is going on in the team. I know Todd likes to keep things close to his vest, but
he most certainly does.
I just feel like at least something should have been said.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because he came to mini camp and OTAs. He had a big brace on his right knee, and we asked Todd Bowles about that. So that was alarming, right? But we asked Todd Bowles about that, and he says it's just precautionary. He'll be ready for training camp. And as it turns out, that's not the case. So I think the main question is, how often was, and I'm not a doctor, so I can't talk about how the team does these things.
Right.
But if they did just catch this surgery, this needed surgery, this added damage to this MCL injury that Wirfs suffered back in Week 10 last year against the San Francisco 49ers, he missed one game from that. If that's the case and you just caught it, why didn't you look at it earlier? And if you had looked at it earlier and you thought you could get through it and then you couldn't, what happened there, right? So can't, blame the team really fully without understanding exactly what happened, but it is interesting that it's so close to training camp. Training camp's in exactly 2 weeks. Bucs will get back to it on the 23rd. This close to training camp to hear this news is very unfortunate. So they had the brace on him. He was working out. He was running. He was putting pressure on it. We saw that. We didn't think there's any concern there, and then suddenly there is. So it is interesting to wonder kind of what happened there. But it's too late for that now. Right? Yeah, it's too late for that now. And if Wirfs does go on the PUP, the physically unable to perform list on training camp, like I mentioned, he will miss those first 4 games at least. And that at least is a really big key word, guys, because if it's longer than that, you're in trouble, quite frankly. Wirfs is the best player on the team. He's one of the best players at his position in the NFL. And it'll be interesting to see just how aggressive Tampa Bay gets about potentially finding a replacement, because if they do, then maybe it might be a little worse than we think. And if they don't, maybe they're pretty confident he'll come back soon.
Right. And, going from, if you start 4-0, man, you're looking at a serious contender here or whatever. And now you had mentioned, at best, possibly 2-2.
Right.
And now you're off to a rocky start and not really where you want to necessarily be. And that could come into play, obviously, when your best player along your offensive line goes down in perennial all-pro, both tackle spots.
Yep.
Can't say enough what he means to not only his team, but the NFL as well. Could impact, that new award for, protector of the year against the offensive line, the Bucs Super Bowl aspirations. I know we've got a couple articles, especially on both of those topics over on BucsGameday.com. So type in BucsGameday.com at the top of your search bar, guys. Go read those. We really, truly do appreciate it. But as you mentioned, River, the replacement. It seems like they're going to try and roll with veteran Charlie Heck, who split time between two teams last year. I forget with who. San Francisco.
You are thinking about the San Francisco 49ers and the Arizona Cardinals.
And he hasn't really seen very much starting time since, I guess his second year potentially with Houston.
Yes,
after he was drafted. So
he started 13 games.
Him moving there, and then on top of that, if it's not going to work out with Charlie Heck playing there at left tackle, protecting Baker Mayfield's blind side, could you potentially see them shuffling that front five? However it may be, if that means moving Luke over to left tackle, sliding somebody over to right. I know Barton's played a little bit of guard, but it's kind of a tricky situation once you get into that sort of thing. But just touch on those two things a little bit, because I'm interested to see what your thoughts are on if they would even think about moving around pieces on the offensive line.
Yeah, it really depends on how long Wirfs is going to be out. 4 games, Charlie Heck probably could hold down the fort there. Last year, if you go by PFF grades, which, with offensive linemen, it's one of the only things that you can really use to grade a player's play there. 41.2 overall grade, 47.8 pass blocking grade, 40.8 run blocking grade. So that's not great. But for 4 games, that's fine, right? If you need to get in there, hold on the fort until Wirfs is good to go. Justin Scully did a similar thing last year, played pretty decently in that sort of system. Then I don't think that's too much of a concern. I think you can roll with Heck, right? 23 games started over the course of his career. He only started 2 last year for San Francisco. So he hasn't started a lot, but that's why you get a swing tackle, right? For situations exactly like this. So that's why the Bucs signed Charlie Heck. Now he's here, next man up, maybe a little sooner than he thought or believed or hoped, but now he's here. If it's more than 4 games, I do think that's when you might think about potentially going to the open market. I don't know if they'd shuffle around their current line. I think they might instead go for a free agent pickup. Instead, the Bucs do have the money to do that, and they could potentially pick up someone for cheap that could come in and potentially compete for that sort of job. We've mentioned Donovan Smith, who has played for the Bucs before, is a free agent. Tyron Smith just retired after a very long career. Money talks. George Fant is out there. There are a few options, right? So
Ronnie too old, or
yeah. So it's unfortunate, right? But I think if it's 4 games, not bad. It's not the end of the world. You can go 2-2. You can make it happen. And then Heck is set to probably start there, but Benjamin Chukwuma, who the Bucs just got as an undrafted free agent, maybe they give him a look as well. They signed him to a lot of money as a undrafted free agent, so they clearly believe that he has some sort of intrinsic talent, so they could try that out as well. But yeah, it really depends on how many games he misses, and we don't know that at this point. We don't know exactly how bad it is. If we won't know until about that 4th game where we can finally see where he's at.
Oh, I'm sure somebody will ask, or ask Todd Bowles.
I'm sure he won't say anything. But that's going to be the big tell, right? Because if it's more, I think with the talent on this team, you might think about getting some extra help there. It's going to take some time, guys, also for Tristan Wirfs to be back at 100% after he comes back. He's going to have to play those 2 or 3 games, getting that feeling back in that knee and making it feel right, getting some reps. So that's going to take a little bit as well. He's not going to be playing at 100%. He probably didn't play at 100% once he came back from his knee injury, right? Now, he still became an all-pro because, of course, he's Tristan Wirfs. He's an alien. But he's going to have to get used to that. So it's going to be an interesting situation. I'm curious to see if they go out and get someone, but that's not Jason Light's MO. even in situations like this, they tend to believe in their guys. And to be fair, like I mentioned, this is the exact reason why they signed Charlie Hack, just in case something like this happens. And it happened. So
yep. So interesting. I feel like they're confident that he'll be back in time. Like, or else they probably wouldn't have even made this statement known at this point,
Right. And the sooner you do the surgery, the sooner you can get back. So that's good. I don't know how much of a problem it will be, but I don't imagine it being too much longer.
Right. And the good thing is it is not something like super serious, right? Like we understood what it was last year. They went back in, did a little thing because it started bothering him, little arthroscopic thing, found a little bit of minor damage or minor whatever they want to call it in their medical terms of something going on in there. And so they just wanted to address it, get it done early. And I don't think they're going to go out and get somebody. There's really no need for it. I think you can make it through 4 games. The beginning of the season 2, I was just watching quarterback season 2, and Joe Burrow and the Bengals were going through that horrible stretch to begin the season. Albeit they didn't have the greatest season at all last year, but like the way they talked, it's like you're not gonna make the playoffs or win a playoff game in your first 4 or 5 games.
That's
like
true.
that's not what's gonna happen. He's like, if you can like stumble through it and like make it through 500, whatever it may be, you're gonna still have a great chance.
Yeah,
especially if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year, because your whole back half of your schedule is loaded with divisional games. So that's really what you're working towards, and I think they're going to be able to get by with it, even if they were to go like 1-3 in those first 4 games, and Tristan comes back game 5. I still think they might be okay. I know fans are probably going to freak out, and that's fandom at its finest, right? Like everybody's going to freak out after one thing. We thought the same thing when Godwin went down last year. Like, oh my God, what are they going to do? They don't have any wide receivers, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And look how the rest of that season turned out. So it's a complete unknown, right? So I'm not sure that it's such a big thing, and I don't think they'll go out and get anybody. And I was going to bring this back to something. I totally forgot what it was. So I'll let you take it from there unless I think of it.
That sounds good to me, Caleb. Yeah, I would say it's probably unlikely, right? And it's all about survival in that early stretch. Now, I will counteract. The Bengals did, in fact, not make the playoffs after that 3-game stretch. And you could argue even that it was because of that 3-game stretch. But you are right about one thing. The divisional games at the end, that's where you're going to make your money. Obviously, you can't talk too many games at the beginning of the season, but I think they can beat the Atlanta Falcons without Tristan Wirfs. It'll be hard. All these games will be hard. But you can beat the Falcons without Tristan Wirfs. You can beat the New York Jets without Tristan Wirfs. I happen to be not the biggest fan of Justin Fields, if you know me at all.
He's on record, like multiple shows saying this guy, so don't be shy.
Well, if you know me at all. Real day ones. So with that offense coming into Tampa Bay, the potential revamped defense that Todd Bowles is working on, first game at home, right? I think you can win that game too.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that the Jets defense is bad. It's quite good. They've got some really good pieces there. They've got some good history there. Stout defensive line. Sauce Gardner's there.
Jermaine Johnson will be coming back after his injury too, I believe. So
right. So there's going to be a lot going on there. And hey, guys, I saw on Reddick Revenge Game. I'm just throwing it out there. He's on the entire revenge tour, I think. Every team he's ever played for, he's going to be playing with the Bucs. So Panthers, Cardinals, Jets, Eagles. He's got them all, folks. He's got them all. So I think there are some very winnable games. And the mark of a great football team is to be able to take these misfortunes and turn them into victories. Mm-hmm. No champion has an easy road, right? Everybody goes through some very difficult stretches, and what you do with those stretches is what makes you a contender. You can't just be a fair weather football team and end up winning the Super Bowl usually. So they can do it, and it's going to suck. And once Wirfs comes back, he's not going to be 100%, but I don't think he'll be gone for too long. So I don't think they need to really go out and get a guy, like you mentioned. And it's not doom and gloom. It's hard to stay positive knowing this because Wirfs is just so integral to the team. He's their best player. but it's not all doom and gloom. So I think they can make it happen, and we'll just have to see how it goes.
Yep, just one of those things that sucks. Ultimately, it's like,
Yeah, it does.
Here we were, avoiding a lot of this even before training camp gets started, which everybody obviously knows training camp is like going to hell when it comes to injuries because everybody just ends up tearing something, and seasons can go down the drain very, very quickly. And we had avoided it up until this point, and now
way to stay positive, Caleb. Yeah, real
sorry.
No, it's fine.
It is to stay positive. I mean, it's Tristan. I'd rather have him healthy through the majority of the season than
For sure.
on.
For sure.
Especially if you're trying to make that run to win the NFC South once again for a record, 4 times in a row or 5 times in a row?
This would be 5, I believe.
I can't remember how many times.
Are you losing count?
Yeah, it's been that long.
21, so 22, 23, 24, potential 25.
Okay, 5. Because the Super Bowl year we didn't win it. But
That's right.
Got it.
They won the game that mattered, though.
The one and only. So yeah, I'm optimistic. I'm fine with where we're at. I think in training camp we'll see a little bit of shuffling. We'll see some guys maybe moving along, playing different spots along the offensive line, seeing who's a little bit more comfortable where, in case it were to arise that, hey, we need you to go play tackle, or hey, we need you to go play guard, or whatever it may be. I think we'll see a lot about that in training camp, and we'll keep you guys updated on what we're seeing when it does come to that, because it'll be an important indicator of what's to come when the regular season does begin. Which you guys will obviously see some bits and pieces here and there when preseason games are going on, because they're going to be mixing up a lot probably when those games are going on, because then you're getting a little bit more of a game speed action and feel when it comes to that. So a lot of 2 more weeks of not a whole lot of stuff going on in the football world.
Next week, guys, when we do the show, the Bucs will have likely unveiled their white creamsicle uniforms. I love uniforms. We're going to talk about that. Caleb, you and I, we're going to go real in depth into how these things look.
All right, awesome.
I'm excited
because it'll be next
head
Wednesday.
Ball coach. Yeah. It'll be the 16th next Wednesday. The 15th is when the Bucs were making this announcement with Steve Spurrier, Gator Great. Go Gators. And then we will get a look at them. We'll get to judge them. Because there's nothing more I love than judging NFL uniforms. It's honestly the best part of the job. So
I hope
that'll be a lot of fun.
So that'll be fun if we get the game too. So this should coincide with one another. But Richard hopping in here late, one of our regular listeners and watchers here. I just ordered myself a Wirfs jersey over the weekend.
It happens, man. It's not your fault. It happens. It's all happened to us at some point in our sporting careers. So
hey, at least you don't have a CG12 jersey. Like that's what I have. Like I got a Chris Godwin jersey, and then like Brady got here, and it was like, oh well, that jersey's kind of like worthless at this point. So I am right there with you, Richard. I am the curse as well, but luckily they've been on to win the Super Bowl, so maybe I kind of like reverse.
Maybe you're a blessing, Caleb. Have you ever thought about that?
Think
highly of yourself. Yeah.
I mean, I keep wearing all this Seminole stuff, and we only won 2 games last year, so maybe.
Keep wearing all your Seminole stuff. Actually, I think I might buy you a shirt if you want to wear it for next season.
Okay. But thank you guys for tuning in. We really do appreciate it so much. Thank you guys for sending your comments, your positivity comments as well. Really appreciate that. Your questions are always welcome over here on YouTube. If you guys want to get your comments and your questions in on the next show, be sure to head over to YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, download the app. It's real quick. It takes 2 seconds. Or if you're on your computer at home, just type in YouTube on the search bar, type in BucsGameday, and we'll pop right up there for you guys. Be sure to hit like. We try to shoot for 50 likes every single episode. So if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications so you're alerted every single time that we are posting something here on YouTube. Again, guys, the Tristan Wirfs news is broken. We just kind of went over that, described what our thoughts are heading into the season and the training camp, what we're expecting, what we're not expecting. A lot of information. So if you're just now tuning in, missed the entire show, a little bit of a shorter one than we usually do because not a lot of information coming out. So go back, rewatch that. You'll get all of our insights as well. And with that being said, guys, we'll see you next week, and fire the cannons.
Fire them.